You're lucky people, because you are here to see the last days of my Movember. I don't know if you can see it from the back, but it's actually a Govember, because my hockey team and I, we all decided we were going for goatees, and we weren't going to shave until we lost. And we only won one game in October, but in Movember we went 4-1. So the goatee got lost, but the mo stayed. So and last night we won the last one, so we ended up 4-1 and raised a bunch of money for prostate cancer. But the reason I tell you that is, one, so you can admire mustache, but also it's a story of optimization, right? We optimized our performance, and that's really what it's sort of all about, right? So, and that's sort of the exciting time. So I'm gonna try this. Is this okay if I don't use the mic? I've got a pretty loud voice. Is that all right back there? Yeah, pretty good. Okay, great. Because I'm going to probably dial up some stuff. So that's sort of the exciting times that, to me, that we're living in that, you know, it's the revolution, right? Here's your first sort of tip tonight. There's a guy I just love. If some people, anybody heard of this guy, Avinash Cossack? It's this guy. If you can check it, you know, Avinash. He's just a terrific guy. He's pretty geeky. If you really want to get into SEO stuff. He gets in pretty heavy, but the reason I think he's wonderful, he's got a wonderful way with words, and you know, sort of he talks about this concept of now's the time we're putting the marketer back into marketing, right? And it may have been hijacked for a number of years, but now thanks to all this ability for us to learn and to optimize and to use this amazing selection of tools, the sort of marketer is coming back into marketing. And it's probably one of the most exciting times because we can find the answers to these things. We don't have to sort of make it up or take the time to go to a focus group or any of this. We can find out these answers right away. So it's one of the most exciting times. But before we get too excited, you know, and I can get really excited, probably a lot of people can, about social media and, you know, and everybody says, oh my gosh, you know, the consumer's taken over media and they're storming the castle and all this, and there's all this tremendous change. Right? And isn't all this exciting? But you know, the reality is, if you go to your stakeholder, right, whoever owns your site, they don't care, right? At the end of the day, they're sitting there and they've got certain business needs, right, or certain organizational needs, and you can get all excited about your Facebook followers and all of this and all this wonderful stuff you're doing, but at the end of the day, they don't care, right? Because they want you to achieve certain goals. And why I mention this is because basically, you know, the way I look at it is, you know, basically you need sort of three things online when you're building up your site. We're just talking a little bit about this, and you know, first thing you need is fame, right? People need to have heard of you, and that's where a lot of social comes into play, right? And you know, it's great and it's good to get, obviously, and you know, if your tweet gets retweeted around, that's all fame building away. But it's hard to get, and your ROI isn't that good on it, right? It's like a TV commercial or something, right? They do work, but your ROI, it's not where I put necessarily my money. The other part is getting fans. That's way at the bottom, right? And that's after somebody's come to your site and you've actually converted them into a customer, and hopefully they've even liked you. And then you've captured them now in your little sticky web, right? And that's really powerful. That's probably the most powerful thing you can do if you remember all that traditional stuff of, you know, go with your existing customers. You're going to get the best ROI out of that. Get them to refer you and review you. So that's probably the best ROI you can get. But right in the middle is the thing we're really sort of going to talk about tonight, and that's the middle one is about getting found, right? And so it has a better ROI than pure fame because people are actually in the mode of looking for you, right? They actually have a need. Whereas if you're just doing fame, you might be interrupting them, right? So I may be on Facebook looking, you know, to wish my friend Jeff happy birthday today, and your message comes along while you're interrupting me. Getting found is about now I actually have that need, right? So naturally the ROI is going to be better here, right? Because you're going to capture a greater amount of people. It's not as good as when you've already got them as a customer and you're getting to talk about you again or getting to come back to your site, but it's going to deliver you better ones, and that's why, you know, a lot of my clients and all of that, they all will invest in this, and I think the world is sort of waking up to this, to the power of getting found, which is really sort of a lot to do with search engine optimization. So what I hope to share with you tonight is some of the tips and tricks, and one of the things that we were talking about, you know, is is, in this sort of part of this revolution that's going on, which is this incredibly exciting time. As we were kidding, I don't position myself as an expert. And as somebody said tonight, anybody who says an expert, I don't trust them right away, right? Because especially in this field of SEO, I could have missed something last night that happened last night that Google tweaked their algorithm, and I'm not an expert anymore. So what I hope to share with you tonight is what I've learned as, what do we call it, advanced knowledge, right? So as far down as what I've learned, and hopefully share with you some tips and tricks and tools and understanding maybe of the whole area. So yeah, so my name is Bob Nunn. I'm a brand mechanic. That actually sounds a little bit like my name is Bob Nunn. I'm an alcoholic. And maybe it's the same way. I sort of have this obsession with sort of fixing brands. I've done it traditionally with sort of big brands and big agencies and help them sort of optimize their marketing performance. But along the way, I started working within the world of search with Yellow Pages and helping them. And I sort of caught the fever of search. And it was kind of funny to be working in that organization because they were sort of the original search engine way back. So I caught a little bit of the fever and the power of this, along with the whole tremendous part of online. So what I'm going to try to do is go through here. I've got 11-point checklist like any good sort of mechanic does. And these are just things that we've sort of learned just distilled them down into a pretty easy thing, even as much for us to be able to understand, remember, the process that we need to go through to get a website found and to build somebody's followers. But as well, it helps our clients sort of understand it. And what it helps us do is give a diagnostic, on any particular brand. And the reason that's good, and I was saying to a couple folks here, because there's differing knowledge, and we sort of stacked it so most of the important things are at the front, right? So you sort of get, we actually score our clients. And so we're able to say, hey, look, you're 6 out of 11, so there's 5 more things you can do. So I'm going to try to go along. We can use real live examples, but I'll try to give you one good example and one bad example. And if we don't get to all 11, that's okay. We can talk about number 9, 10, 11 later maybe. But also, most people, my experience, aren't at that level, quite at that level yet anyway. So most of the good bounce you're going to get in performance is going to come from the first things anyway. So, and I won't call it bad problem. When we do this with our clients, we say, it's actually not a bad example. We call them poor. You actually got a poor score or a problem or opportunity recognized. That's our acronym. So basically, when we look at it, if somebody scores low on our little diagnostic, then we basically say, look, the good news here is even if you only got 2 out of 11, that means there's 9 things you can do to improve your marketing performance, and that's a good news story. So, so I'll try to give a live example and a little bit of a tool tip or secret as we go. So hopefully I'm going to share something with you today and that you're going to get something out of it. So let's get started. First thing is you gotta, and we were talking about this, so what are the, we were talking about, what are the first 3 things I do, right? And somebody said that, I just want to learn the first 3. So the first one is that we don't listen to mom and we sort of skip on to something else. And mom always told me, do your homework. Stick down, you got to do your homework first. And the first part of doing your homework is if we want to get found, it's get found for what? Right? And this is probably the biggest question, right? Because, and I know when I meet a new organization, I know that they've got their act together on SEO, and I can ask the president, I say, what are your targeted keywords? And if he goes, they're this, and they're this, I go, oh boy, these guys got it down, because the president knows the words they're going after. And it's also usually a pretty short list. Maybe you have all sorts of permutations and combinations of it, but he knows exactly what they want to get found for. So, and to do this part, right, the way I sort of look at it is, it's pretty simple. The concept of sort of SEO, and I think it's simple in one way and it's just marvelous in another. And it's sort of where, and I think I might have stole this from Avanish, but it's where sort of intent meets content, right? So you've got your site sitting over there, you've got your brand sitting over there, your organization. But what this is sort of going to do is it's going to help you. What you absolutely have to do to be a good marketer here is you have to use the exact phrases that other people are using to search, right? And so they have an intent, they've got a problem, and you have to be able to match them. And it gets pretty simple. If you don't match them, right, you're not going to get found. And while it's sort of geeky in one way, because it's about keywords and things like that, on the other hand, it's marketing at its best, right? Because how many times do we use, and I'll do it tonight, right? I'll use jargon and things you don't understand. If I do, shout out, get me to use it in plain English. But really what I try to do as well is I even use this to learn myself about the language I should be using, right? And it helps me really try to get things into the language that real people use and that search engines find. And those are aligned, right? Because the search engine is trying to figure out that language. So that's really what you're trying to do. And even if we talk about social, we were talking a little bit about that, was even the language you use, if you're not getting that sort of social spark, if you're, hey, I'm posting away on Facebook, nothing's happening, maybe you're using the wrong language, right? You're talking away, but you're not connecting with anybody because you're not using that sort of set of words. And so it can become really challenging and sort of liberating and exciting to be able to figure out the language for your particular space and to figure out what those keywords are. And does that make sense? Everybody get that part? Yeah. So I'll give you an example of, this is a neat live one here. You're not too far from here. One of my clients, you're an executive recruitment firm. And so I sort of had fun with him because I knew this, he said right off the bat. I said, who are you guys, right? But what do you do? Right? He said, we're an executive search firm. I said, executive search? I said, I thought you were a headhunter. And they said, well, we don't like to call ourselves headhunter. And I said, well, that's kind of funny because for executive search, there's 590 searches a month and there's 22,900 for a headhunter. So I'm thinking you're a headhunter, So are you okay? Are we a headhunter? They're like, yeah, we're a headhunter, right? So because that's the language people use, right? That actually, the next one was, by the way, was recruiter, right? So it wasn't executive search. So they were trying to get found for 590, and there were 2,400 searches monthly for Toronto recruiter and 2,900 for Toronto headhunter. So and nobody else, a lot of the recruiters aren't sort of touching this because, oh my gosh, I don't want to be called a headhunter, but that's what people call it, right? That's the language they use, right? So we convinced them to embrace this, and we're working our way on up the rankings. Yeah?
How are you quantifying what the numbers of searches are?
So I'll show you that. I mean, how many people are familiar with the Google keyword tool? Right, so there you go. That's how you do it. Right?
I can look that up on my own place.
Yeah, and that's a funny one too, because we were laughing about this the other day. When I left Yellow Pages, I was going to start off my firm, Brand Mechanics, and then I sort of ran into, I ran into a chum over a bottle of rum. A friend of mine and I got together and we got talking all about this, and I was sort of coming from the branding, and he's a search engine optimizer, and he's a terrific guy named Jeff Quibb, who runs a great firm, I think 3-time Profit 100 firm now, growing like crazy out in Pickering, called Search Engine People. So I went to work with Jeff for a year, and that was a treat for me because these guys are terrific at what they do. And so I got to learn firsthand in there. And so the first thing I did, came in day one, show me the black box, right? Show me that magic little tool you use to figure out the best keywords. And they got this guy, and it's hilarious. His name is literally Wiz, and he's the guy. He's the Wiz. And so he pops up the Google keyword tool. And I'm going like, no, there's got to be another tool you use. No, that's it. And we were having a joke the other day because I met another guy who's just as good as these guys. And I said, what do you use? He goes, oh, just a keyword tool. And I just sort of laughed. And you'll meet firms that have the big black box, and they charge clients a big fortune for that. And my experience that I found is it's just people, sort of good marketers, making common sense with a common tool and knowing what to look for. And of course it's free. So it's as simple as that many times. I mean, you got to sort of know what you're looking at. You got to sort of use your own smarts. But so a great example of this, one I know well, is Best Buy. And in terms of really understanding what to get found for, they're an amazing organization that is so up to speed every sort of day, every night, in terms of if a phrase changes in terms of a game or something like that, they're adjusting their marketing as they go. And they're a miraculous organization that way. We're talking about QR codes the other day, and they actually are they change where stuff goes on their shelf by how many people scan the QR code. So that's that funny little graphic thing that you see in these little squiggly lines. When you got one?
Like this.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah. So, but the point is they're sort of using technology to even change where something goes on the shelf.
Oh.
So they're that good of a learning organization where they're sort of continually learning what people are looking for. So a bad example, or poor, problem or opportunity recognized. I'm going to pick on the ad agencies here. Sorry, I know a friend of mine's from Cassette over here. Did you work in it? So here's the funny thing, and they may have changed this a bit, but I sort of laughed at it. I just picked it out, and it's not a fair example really. But thinking of words again, right? The word advertising, despite Mad Men, if we look at, this is Google Insights for Search, another free tool, right? This is a marvelous thing. It's an SEO tool, it's sort of but it's an amazing tool for a marketer because you can find, going back to 2004, is demand for a word going up or down online, right? So we have a new client. They make cakes. They're wonderful people. They make beautiful, gorgeous cakes. They're trying to get paid in cake. We're showing them that like searches for cakes online have taken off, right? Kind of a weird thing. All of a sudden, over the past 5 years, searches for cakes have gone like this. Searches for advertising since 2004 has gone like that. For advertising agency, you can see the blue line. It's been decreased and going down and down and down. And I think it's pretty fair, given that we all put all these things into the search box, that what's happening online, the demand for a word online is pretty reflective of what's going on in the real world, right? So if you're an advertising agency, one of the things you should really seriously question is calling yourself an advertising agency. Because the word is getting less and less popular, right? So, but here, if I go over to McLaren McCann, the biggest advertising agency, they say, hey, our vision is simple, to be the best multidiscipline advertising agency in North America. Okay, fine, good. You're over there, you're trying to rank, or you're calling yourself a word that is going down in popularity. So it's something where they're not sort of listening and they're not sort of paying attention to the intent of the searcher and what's going on with that. So this is what we just mentioned. This is the Google keyword tool, which is as basic as that. It's best to have a Gmail account for a lot of this stuff, but you can simply start to learn this, but it can be as simple as that, as trying to understand. If you're putting anything, you get two options basically. You can put in your particular keywords that you think. First question is, what do you think people would put in to find you? Right? Not what you call yourself, but what do you think? And ask other people around, like even customers. What would you put in a search box to find us? And you can start to just simply put those words in and to see what Google's telling you about other words that are relevant to that search. Or the other option is you can put your URL right in there, or even the URL of your competitors, and right into the Google keyword and see the suggested search there. One of the things you might find sometimes if you put your own site in there, and if Google comes up with very few, like a lot of times there'll be hundreds. This page will go on down. You'll have 100 or 200 keywords that they're going to suggest, and if you put your own site in, they only come up with 6. You got a problem. But I'll get to in a bit, right? Because they're not able to crawl you and see much in your site. So this simple tool, and there's all sorts of different ways, but Google's tools are pretty easy to understand. That's one of the beauty of them. So that's a simple way to do it. And I don't think I have in here another one, but there's another aspect on this that's important. I think don't worry as much about the tool, but the concept of it. So if we may have a term that we'd say, so who's got, somebody throw out a business and a keyword that you think you're after. Who's got somebody give me a keyword you're trying to target.
Accounting.
Accountant, great example, okay? So accountant, right, so we'd say, okay, we can start to go around that, accounting or accountant. Okay, you say, okay, so that's what I want to rank for. I want to get found for accountant, all right? So, good luck, right? Because if you go and we look at accountant, right, page 1 is going to be stacked full of other people who have probably got all their SEO figured out. Now maybe we can go down a little bit more geographic, right? We can go Toronto accountant. Maybe we'll have a better shot at that, right? Probably, again, it's going to be a pretty crowded space. So my point being is it isn't enough just to say, I want to rank for this keyword search. The other key question is, can I rank for this keyword search, right? Because if you don't make it to page 1, you're missing 90% of the searches. And you got to find something. So you may have to keep going down in your niche, right, and start to figure it out to find maybe a little hill that you're gonna climb to the top of. But you need to find out something that it is where it's possible for you to rank for. So we have tools that we use on this where we can go in and we can check who's on page 1, see some of their basic quality, their efforts, how hard would it be for us to rank a client on that, and we'll give them honest advice on that. Because a lot of times, I want to rank for this, and we say you can't rank for that. You're not gonna. We could take your money, but it's not going to work.
Would there be a different rank depending on language used?
Yeah, because you can do different ones for different languages. For
So let's
obviously
say
French and
if you went to like accounting in English or accounting in Chinese, both being within, let's say, Toronto, are they going to have the same kind of ranking?
Yeah, and there's all sorts of little. That's an example of a little small hill you could take, right? You can turn that around and you can go after a certain geography, right? Again, like maybe there's Accountant Forest Hill, right? Maybe there's little ones like that, right? That you can be able to find. But that's where it takes some creativity, and you've got to, and also some patience to be able to understand of what you can rank for and try to find that little niche, right, where you can connect your business with a bigger group of searches.
So you're talking about using like a geographical search on a keyword?
Yeah. So if I put in, for example, if I put in accountant right now into the keyword tool, we can try it. I probably see Toronto accountant. I have a guy up in Collingwood who wanted to rank for Collingwood financial planner, and he was adamant about this. And I said, but there's no searches for Collingwood financial planner. And one of the things I find, unfortunately, and I don't think anybody does this with malice or anything. I think it's this whole area of search engine optimization is a bit of a dark art, a bit of a Harry Potter turf. So people are learning on that. But I have a lot of clients who say, look at this, I'm ranked for this, right? I'm ranked for Collingwood financial planner. So that's good news. Except here's the bad news. Nobody's searching for Collingwood financial planner, right? They're searching for Barrie financial planner because I can see that in the keyword tool that it actually says, financial planner Barrie. So yeah, I'm not saying, maybe that's not the most horrible idea. Maybe Google's not picking up those searches yet. Maybe there is 12 people looking for that a month, and that's good for him, for his business. Maybe that's okay, but it gives me an idea on that. So yeah.
When using the Google keyword tool, sometimes you're looking for the keyword and it says competition low, medium, high, right?
Yeah.
So do you recommend going for low or medium or high, or doesn't really matter? And
well, that's
how can you figure out what they mean when you
that's a bit. That's sort of. It's a little bit of a clue of how rankable it is, right? But really, that low, medium, high is referring to the competition if you're going to pay for the keyword. Right, so if you're going to buy an ad, so that's really, because they're, be aware, right, Google is also using this to sell you advertising, right? So what they're basically telling you is that there's low competition, so you can buy that keyword, because that's how the keyword tool was originally developed for paid search. So but it is a little bit of clue. So a lot of times when I see something that says low, I'll go, well, that might be rankable over there. But then I'll go back and I'll check other stuff on the page, right? So I'll go actually take a look on an actual page and see what the competition is going to be like for that term.
Maybe if you have any suggestions for new ventures or new businesses, and they are all not exact keywords as such because it's new.
Yeah.
And then how we can go for in terms of SEO.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, because what if you're inventing a term, right? And you're going to win and you're going to own that term over time.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Oh yeah, sure. So the question was on new venture. Like, what if you're doing something brand new where there sort of may not be a term for it, and you're inventing the term, right? How do you sort of get started that way, and what do you do with that? So, you can take a gamble, right? And a good one, and sort of say, look, I'm going to own this term, and I think that there's going to be volume here. And you can sometimes see, like on social media, you can do a search on, words for that, and you might see the start of a wave of a new word, right? We were talking about our sort of mutual friends, Switch Video, or these guys up in Collingwood, and they do explanation videos, which is a new sort of type of video being done. And I don't think you'd find it on a search term, yet it is coming, right? And they're confident enough that that term is coming, that that's what they're ranking for.
But
Right,
so
so
they also
certainly-
do it with the old term?
Yeah, so that's
How-to videos?
right. So there you go. So you also take the old term, because generally, here's the thing too, and we were talking about this, is you need to think of, I think about it as hills I'm going to take, right? I sort of get all military and adventurous, right? I'm going to take a hill, right? And that hill's going to be the Headhunter Hill, right? And I'm going to sort of go after that, and I'm going to focus, right? Because it sounds like a bit like, you know, what you were doing a bit on your site. I think a lot of us do, and this is sort of a mistake I made eons ago when I was starting as well. It's one thing to do a blog, right? And if you're on WordPress, some people got blogs and doing WordPress, and you've got a little SEO that says you can put your tags on there and stuff, right? So you're blogging about something, you say, okay, I'm going to sort of associate that with some good tags. And that's not a bad practice, because you're now starting to try to use the language to get that blog post found. But the problem with that is, if every post you're going after a whole different set of keywords, how do you think that looks to Google? Right? You're going to look a little schizophrenic, right? You're not going to really rank for one term. Google's going to look at you and scratch your head if every time you do a blog post it's going for a different term. And it may help that one blog post get found, but usually what you want to do is sort of keep your sort of set of keywords, right? And I usually try to go for 3 to 6 keyword phrases, right? And just sort of keep those around, and we're going to start at number 1, and we're going to try to rank for that, you know, and then, you know, if I'm on a post, I might also put in the second one, and then maybe I'll put something specific to that post to get it found as well. So, you know, focus is probably one of the biggest key lessons of search engine optimization. So win that hill, and then move on to the next sort of bigger hill.
So
Right?
does it matter whether you put, if you're an accountant, say you're an accountant's newspaper, so does the accountant have to go, does the tag matter to first? Does rank which tag is in order? Like if you write,
Yes.
you're tagging a story, I say, and you're trying to get accounting to be your first.
Right. So you're going to
So
put
you're
your
not putting accounting at the end, even if you're writing a newspaper and your story is blah, 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 blah. Accounting, accounting first.
yeah. Generally, it's a good rule of thumb right across all your SEOs. You're sort of leading with the phrase that you really want to rank for first. Right. Just keep focusing. Yeah.
So are you saying when creating content, it'd be good practice to go to the keyword tool, try to find related words to that post that are highly searched, and try to incorporate those words into your blog post so that they're good for SEO?
Yeah. I mean, that to me, beyond SEO, I just think that's good practice, right? Because it gets you out of maybe your industry jargon, and you're going to get found for more common terms. That's it. But my point was that if you do that for every post and all the time those keywords are different, you're not going to get ranked anywhere, right? You follow me? Because each one may rank individually. And I have blog posts I've done on a certain thing. I did one on, it was billboard advertising. And, you know, I'm usually blogging about online stuff, but I've been doing branding for a while, so I just commented on good billboard, bad billboard, I think I called it. I critique somebody's billboard and praise somebody else's. That little blog post just keeps chugging along every month, right? I get found for billboards. It's not something I'm trying to rank for, but I get found for it, right? So that's okay. You know, it's not really my targeted keyword, but I get found for it, so that's fine. But, yeah.
So if you repeat the same keyword within, say, the same post, would you get found more?
Yeah, that's what if anybody's heard about a term of keyword density.
If you say you put accountant 10 times in the same
Well,
post.
then it's going to get obnoxious, right?
But
right.
if it's a long, say, post.